If you stand on the bridge over the Chicago River when the wind is coming off the lake, you feel a distinct kind of cold. It is a heavy, damp cold that seems to seep into the limestone of the buildings themselves. The city feels anchored here. It feels built to withstand things. There is a broad-shouldered quality to the architecture, a sense of mass and permanence that defies the flatness of the surrounding prairie. This is a place that was constructed to handle the physical weight of the world, the grain, the timber, the steel, the livestock, and you can still feel that gravity in the streets today, even though the cattle are long gone and the grain moves through invisible digital channels. It is fitting that this city, with its deep roots in the mud and its defiance of the winter, became the place where the world comes to manage the weight of the future. We tend to think of finance as something airy, something that lives in the clouds or on the screens of phones, a frantic exchange of signals that has no real connection to the ground. But here, in the canyons of the Loop, finance feels different. It feels structural. It feels like the engineering of a bridge. The financial system that grew out of this soil was not designed for the quick thrill of the casino. It was designed for the slow, terrifying necessity of survival. It was built because the world is unpredictable, and human beings, for all their adaptability, cannot abide total uncertainty. We need to know that there will be food in the winter. We need to know that the fuel will be there to heat the homes. We need to know that the price of survival will not spiral out of control. And so, Chicago became the great organizer of tomorrow. It is a strange and quiet alchemy that happens here. It is the transmutation of fear into arithmetic. When a farmer looks at the sky and sees storm clouds gathering, he feels a primal anxiety. He worries about the harvest. He worries about the price. He worries that his labor will vanish into the mud. That fear is real. It is visceral. But this city created a way to take that fear, package it, measure it, and sell it to someone else. It created a mechanism where the risk of the storm could be transferred from the person who grows the wheat to the person who wants to buy the wheat, or perhaps to a person who simply wants to hold the risk for a price. This is the fundamental business of the city. It is a vast, complex clearinghouse for human anxiety. When you walk past the old trading board buildings, you are walking past the machinery of this transfer. It used to be loud. It used to be a physical brawl of men shouting and signaling. A chaotic theater of commerce where the price was discovered through the sheer force of lungs and hands. Now, it is mostly silent. The shouting has moved into the fiber optic cables buried deep beneath the pavement. The hand signals have become algorithms. The pit is now a server farm, but the silence is deceptive. The intensity has not diminished. It has only changed its frequency. The hum of the city is the sound of millions of calculations happening every microsecond, all of them asking the same question: what is the future worth? This question is the heartbeat of the modern economy. It is not enough to know what something costs today. Today is already over. Today is a sunk cost. The entire global system is built on the expectation of what comes next. Airlines need to know the price of jet fuel 6 months from now. Coffee chains need to know the price of beans next year. Governments need to know the cost of borrowing for the next decade. They cannot leave these things to chance. If they left them to chance, the world would be paralyzed by hesitation. No one would build a factory if they didn't know the cost of the raw materials. No one would plant a field if they didn't know the value of the crop. So they come here, they come to the market that Chicago built to lock in the future. There is a profound humility in this process. Though it rarely looks humble from the outside, it is an admission that we cannot control the world. We cannot stop the drought. We cannot stop the war. We cannot stop the sudden shift in consumer demand. The world is chaotic and indifferent to our plans. Because we cannot control the events, we control the exposure. We build a shelter. The financial instruments traded here are essentially architectural drawings for that shelter. They are contracts that bind the present to the future. They say, no matter what happens in the world, this is the price we agree upon. It is a way of freezing time. It is a way of creating a small island of certainty in an ocean of variables. And like any shelter, it requires maintenance. It requires a foundation that does not crack. This is where the true nature of the city's financial culture reveals itself. It is a culture of discipline. It is a culture of collateral. In other markets, trust might be based on a handshake or a reputation or a vague sense of optimism. Here, trust is based on the margin. It is based on the cash you put on the table to prove that you are good for your word. The system is ruthless in this regard. It checks the math every day. If the market moves against you, if the risk you are holding becomes too heavy, the system demands more support. It demands it immediately. There is no negotiation. There is no waiting for the weather to clear. You pay or you are liquidated. This ruthlessness is not cruelty. It is safety. It is the firewall that prevents a fire in one room from burning down the entire house. By forcing everyone to settle their debts constantly, by never letting the losses pile up in the shadows, the system protects itself. It ensures that when the storm actually hits, the structure will hold. It is a Darwinian ecosystem enclosed in glass and steel. It weeds out the weak so that the collective can survive. I find myself thinking about the people who work in these towers, the ones who design the models and write the code and manage the risk. They are not the masters of the universe that the movies portray. They are more like mechanics. They are the mechanics of the global engine. They listen to the hum of the market and they try to detect the rattle that suggests something is loose. They look at the curves on the screens and try to see where the stress is building up. They are constantly trying to anticipate the breaking point. This is a city that respects the breaking point. It knows that everything has a limit. The lake has a limit before it floods. The wind has a limit before it tears the roof off. And the market has a limit before it crashes. The goal is not to prevent the crash. Crashes are part of nature, just like storms, but to survive it. To build a vessel that can capsize and right itself. This resilience is the unseen export of Chicago. We see the physical exports, the machinery, the food, but the invisible export is stability. By allowing the world to hedge its bets, this city exports a kind of calmness. It allows a treasurer in Tokyo to sleep at night. It allows a pension fund manager in London to promise a retirement to his clients. It allows the wheels of commerce to turn without grinding to a halt every time a headline scares the public. It acts as a giant shock absorber. When a crisis hits a pandemic, a banking failure, a geopolitical shock, the first reaction of the world is panic. The price of everything fluctuates wildly. The signal becomes noise. But here, the system kicks into gear. The shock absorber compresses. The volume of trading explodes as people rush to protect themselves. The price discovery mechanism works overtime, trying to find the new reality, trying to find the new floor. It is messy. It is volatile. Fortunes are lost in the process, but the machinery itself usually holds. The contracts are honored, the trades clear, the lights stay on. And eventually, the panic subsides. The shock absorber expands, the ride smooths out. This ability to absorb violence is what makes the system valuable. It takes the hit so the real economy doesn't have to. It concentrates the volatility in a place that is designed to handle it, keeping it away from the grocery store and the gas pump as much as possible. Of course, it doesn't always work perfectly. No human system does. There are times when the shock is too great, when the fear is too pervasive. But even then, the instinct of the city is to rebuild the wall, to thicken the concrete, to rewrite the rules to be sturdier next time. There is a pragmatism here that is very different from the idealism of Silicon Valley or the political maneuvering of Washington. It is the pragmatism of the Midwest. It asks, does it work? Does the math hold up? Can we count on it? If the answer is yes, it stays. If the answer is no, it is discarded. As the sun sets over the river, the bridges are raised to let the sailboats pass out to the lake. It is a daily ritual, a mechanical ballet of steel and counterweights. It reminds you that this is a working city. It is a city of gears and levers. The financial system is just another set of gears and levers. It is more complex, certainly. It is more abstract, but it serves the same function. It moves things from where they are to where they need to be. It moves risk from the fragile to the sturdy. It moves capital from the stagnant to the productive. And it moves time. That is the most haunting part of it, really. The way this place interacts with time. Walk down LaSalle Street at dusk. The canyon is deep and shadowed. The lights in the office windows are golden rectangles against the gray stone. Inside those rooms, people are living in the future. They are not thinking about the dinner they will have tonight. They are thinking about the price of gold in December. They are thinking about the volatility of the S&P 500 next March. They have projected their minds forward, inhabiting a world that does not yet exist. They are building models of that world, populated by ghosts of what might happen. The ghost of a recession, the ghost of a boom, the ghost of an inflation spike. They give these ghosts names, they give them prices, they trade them back and forth, and by trading the ghosts, they exercise them. They make them less terrifying. They turn the monster under the bed into a line item on a spreadsheet. This is a service to humanity that goes largely unrecognized. We live our lives with a certain degree of confidence because someone, somewhere, has worried about the disaster for us. Someone has priced the disaster. Someone has hedged against it. We walk on solid ground because beneath our feet, there is a complex lattice of supports that we never see. Chicago is the architect of those supports. It is a quiet role. The city does not brag about it. It does not seek the limelight. It is content to be the engine room, the place where the heavy lifting is done, the place where the boiler is stoked. There is a distinct lack of glamour in the concept of risk management. It sounds boring. It sounds like paperwork. It sounds like something you do in a back office with the blinds drawn. But in reality, it is the most dramatic thing there is. It is the confrontation with the unknown. It is the wrestling match with fate. Every trade is a small argument about the future. One side says, I think prices will go up. The other side says, I think prices will go down. They back their opinions with money. They lock horns. And out of that argument comes the truth, or at least the closest version of the truth we can find at that moment. The price is the truce. The price is the settlement. And the next moment, the argument starts again. It never ends. The future is an infinite resource. You can never run out of tomorrow. As long as time keeps moving, there will be new risks to manage, new uncertainties to hedge, new prices to discover. The city knows this. It knows that its work is never done. There is no finish line. There is no point where they can dust off their hands and say, we have solved the market. We have tamed the risk. The risk is alive. It evolves. It learns. It finds new cracks in the pavement. So the system must evolve too. It must get faster. It must get smarter. It must get stronger. The computers get more powerful. The algorithms get more complex. The networks get denser. But the core principle remains the same. The principle that was born in the mud and the grain elevators 150 years ago. The principle that says, we are stronger when we share the burden. We are safer when we plan ahead. We are more resilient when we face the truth of the price. The wind picks up in the evening, rattling the signs, pushing against the heavy revolving doors of the bank buildings. People pull their coats tighter. They head for the train stations, disappearing underground or crossing the bridges to the west. But the lights in the servers do not go out. The data does not sleep. While the city rests, the markets in Asia are opening. The markets in Europe will open a few hours later. The global loop of commerce continues to spin. And Chicago sits at the center of the web, holding the threads, feeling the vibrations. It is a heavy responsibility. It requires a steady hand. It requires a lack of emotion. You cannot get emotional about the math. The math is the math. There is a comfort in that coldness. In a world of hot takes and fiery rhetoric, the cold logic of the derivatives market is a strange kind of sanctuary. It is a place where reality is tested over and over again. If you are wrong, you lose. If you are right, you win. It is clean. It is honest. It is the bedrock. And as you look at the skyline one last time, standing against the darkening sky, you realize that these buildings are not just offices. They are monuments to that honesty. They are monuments to the human attempt to create order out of chaos. They are the fortresses of the future. And inside them, the quiet, relentless work of organizing the unknown goes on continually, steadily, without pause, sorting the fear from the fact, watching the horizon for the next storm, preparing for the world that is coming, moment by moment, trade by trade, into the night.